There's something about Halloween that makes the air feel heavier, like it's thick with old whispers, or maybe it's just me. I've always been into horror, but the kind of stories that really get under your skin are the ones that feel real. The stories that make you question whether that creak in your house is just the building settling or something else. And every year, I tell myself I'm not going to dig too deep into this stuff, but here I am again. I guess I can't help myself. This year, it's different though. I got my hands on something darker than usual. A collection of tales passed down, whispered in hushed tones, and documented by those who lived it, or at least survived long enough to tell the tale. I don't know if any of this is true, but what I do know is that after reading these stories, I've started sleeping with the lights on. So, here we go. Welcome to Silent Screams. It started like any other Halloween. The air was crisp, carrying that dry, earthy smell of fallen leaves, and the sky hung with a bloated moon that cast long, eerie shadows through the bare branches of the trees. I've always had this tradition of exploring places that carry a reputation, places where people say strange things happen, and that's how I found myself driving up to Ridgeway Road. The locals call it the Hollow, and they say no one with any sense goes up there anymore. But the thing is, no one can ever explain why. All they'll tell you is that people who visit don't come back the same. They don't disappear, they just change. That's where my curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see if the stories were true, or if it was just another one of those urban legends designed to keep people out of a creepy, run-down place. I brought a flashlight, but I didn't think I'd need it. It was only late afternoon when I got there, and I figured I'd be done before dark. The road was exactly what you'd expect, a narrow, winding dirt track surrounded by dense woods, the kind of place where your headlights barely cut through the thick wall of trees. And then there was the house. I almost didn't see it at first. It was set back off the road, half hidden behind a tangle of wild vines and overgrown bushes. The roof was sagging, and the windows were all shattered or boarded up. The air around it felt wrong, like the kind of place that hadn't been touched by time, or maybe time had just forgotten about it. I parked a little ways down the road and walked the rest of the way, feeling that uneasy tingle at the back of my neck. When I reached the front porch, the boards groaned under my weight, and I almost turned back. Almost. But then, I heard something, or I thought I did. It was so faint, like a whisper, or maybe the wind, but it felt like something was beckoning me inside. So, I did what any horror fan with no common sense would do. I went in. The smell hit me first. It was a mix of rot and damp, like something had been festering in the walls for decades. My flashlight flickered for a second as I stepped into the main hallway, and I told myself it was just the batteries. But I'd just put new ones in before I left. The house was bigger on the inside than it looked from the outside. The hallway stretched out into darkness, with doorways leading off into rooms that I wasn't sure I wanted to explore. But I had to. There was something here, something waiting. I tried to shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone, but the deeper I went, the more it pressed in on me. It wasn't just the creaking floorboards or the way the wind howled through the broken windows. It was the sense that something was watching me, something that had been waiting a long time for someone to come back. The first strange thing I noticed was the photographs. They were scattered across the floor in one of the rooms, old black and white photos of families, children, some with faces that were scratched out. But it was the eyes that got to me. In every single picture, the eyes seemed to follow me, no matter where I moved in the room. Then I heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible sound, like someone was breathing right behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding, but there was no one there. Just the open doorway leading back into the hall. I felt a cold chill crawl up my spine, and that's when I knew I wasn't alone. I'd felt it before, that oppressive weight of something unseen, something watching. I should have left. I should have turned around, walked out of that house, and never looked back. But instead, I went deeper. There was a door at the end of the hallway. It looked newer than the rest of the house, like it had been replaced at some point, but it was old enough to blend in. I don't know what I was expecting when I opened it, but it wasn't what I found. The basement stairs creaked under my weight as I descended, my flashlight beam bouncing off the walls. The air down there was different, thicker, colder, and it smelled even worse than upstairs. Like something had died down there. The further I went, the more I started to regret coming. But it was too late for that. At the bottom of the stairs, there was a single door, locked with a rusted chain. Mike had told me to turn back, but I'd gone this far, and curiosity had me in its grip. I started to pull on the chain, and just as it came loose, the door swung open on its own. Inside, the room was pitch black, but I could feel something in there, something moving. I flicked my flashlight into the room, and that's when I saw it. A figure stood in the corner, its back to me. It was hunched over, its arms long and thin, like they didn't belong to a human body. I froze, the hair on the back of my neck standing up. For a second, I thought it was just a trick of the light, maybe some old furniture draped in a sheet. But then it turned. Its face, or what was left of it, was twisted, like someone had stretched the skin too tight over its skull. Its eyes were hollow, black pits, and its mouth hung open in a silent scream. It didn't move toward me, but I could feel its gaze locked on mine, like it was waiting for me to do something, anything. I didn't run. I couldn't. My legs felt like they were made of stone. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it was gone. The room was empty, but I knew it was still there, watching, waiting. I stumbled out of the basement, my heart racing, and ran for the front door. But when I got there, it wouldn't open. No matter how hard I pulled, it wouldn't budge. That's when I heard the voice. Stay. It wasn't loud, but it was clear, like someone was standing right next to me, whispering in my ear. I turned around, expecting to see the figure again, but there was no one there. Just the empty hallway stretching out before me. The walls started to close in, or maybe it was just my imagination, but the house felt smaller, tighter, like it was trying to trap me. I slammed my shoulder into the door, and finally, it gave way. I don't remember running back to my car. I don't remember the drive home. All I know is that I got out of there, but I didn't leave it behind. The house followed me. Not literally, of course, but in my dreams. Every night since, I've been back there, wandering those same halls, hearing those same whispers, seeing that same twisted figure watching me from the shadows. And I'm not sure how much longer I can keep it at bay. It's been weeks now, and the dreams are getting worse. Last night, I woke up to the sound of footsteps in my hallway. But when I checked, there was no one there. Or maybe there was. Maybe it followed me home after all. I haven't been back to Ridgeway Road, and I don't plan to. But if you ever find yourself driving up that way, remember this: some places aren't meant to be explored. Some doors should stay locked. And some things, once you've seen them, you can never unsee. If you ever go up to the hollow, you might not come back the same. Or you might not come back at all. And now I can't stop thinking, maybe I should have never gone in. But it's too late for that now.